What's up, everybody? It's me, Couchmills here, and today we're going to be talking about the end to smurfing, or at least Riot's solution to the smurfing problem, which is one of the biggest problems that Valorant players are facing right now. So we're going to break it all down, see if it's an actual solution, and talk about the future state of the smurfing problem as a whole. But for the fastest way to get to Immortal and beyond, you're going to need the GameLeap website, where we have tips, tricks, guides, and everything you need condensed in one small package. So what are you waiting for? Go check it out right now in the links down below. So Riot have released what they are calling the Smurf detection update. So now Smurfs are going to be set within their proper MMR within an average of 4 to 10 matches. This means that a Smurf will get put to their rank incredibly quickly. And the reason that this is going to be so effective is when we pair it with how long it takes you to be able to play comp in the first place, which is a ton of freaking games you have to play now. Now you're going to play comp, you're going to grind, you're going to play on an alternate account, and between 4 and 10 matches, you're already going to end up in your proper MMR. This is going to mean that if you ever run into a Smurf, it's going to be very few and far between, and you're almost never going to run into them anymore. And while there definitely could be a couple of sporadic instances where you run into a Smurf every once in a while, it's going to be greatly reduced. So the smurfing problem as a whole is going to more or less dissipate. However, there is still the problem with 5 stacks players that only play with their buddies, players that intentionally play in a way that is like semi-throwing, and then when they play with their teammates, when they play with their buddies, when they play in a 5 stack, then they try. So the Smurf system is putting them up, but not fast enough. But to go along with the Smurf detection updates, Riot also believes that the new Premier League will discourage creating a Smurf at all, because the majority of 5 stacks are players that just can't play with each other. But in the new Premier League, anyone can play with each other and just play in a coordinated setting with your friends. So it's going to encourage you to grind together and play together, and it's going to discourage people from also smurfing. In addition to all these problems with MMR, smurfing is going to be harder than ever, and it's not just going to happen all that much. Also, you're disincentivized to do it. So when you combine it all together, the smurfing problem is going to be basically non-existent, or at least almost non-existent, and I think that that is as good as we can freaking expect. Now, there has been some criticism towards Riot talking specifically about the smurfing rules. Like, is smurfing allowed? Is it bannable? There's a lot of people that do smurfing things on stream, whether they do Sheriff to Immortal, or Marshal only, or Judge only, or all these different challenges where they're not necessarily playing the game how it should, but if they can get to the rank that anyone else can get at a very high peak, then a lot of the arguments go, yeah, they should be able to do whatever they want, but at the same time, they are also kind of ruining some amount of people's games. They're also smurfing in a certain way, and the community is pretty split on it. Personally, I'm kind of split on it too. I understand that a lot of this stuff is done for content's sake, and at the end of the day, they aren't completely ruining games and making things a little bit more fair by putting restrictions on themselves. But when the restriction is something tame, like I'm gonna play the new character from the lowest rank to the highest rank, and then they obviously take an account that doesn't belong to them, and that has like a pretty hard set MMR, and they're playing on someone else's account and just grinding through it, obviously on stream and publicly, but they don't get any sort of punishment because they're a big figure. I think a lot of people look at that and say, yeah, there should be some legitimate rules around that, because that's just not fair. And I could agree with that, but at least now, smurfing in general is going to be something that is far removed, and it didn't have to be done with ruling per se, but it was done with the algorithm behind the scenes, which Riot has been actively working on a number of different things, from throwers to penalties to catching people who are overly toxic, and now Smurf detection. It seems like Riot is trying to trim every single problem that the average player is running into. But ultimately, I have to pass the question off to you. Do you feel like smurfing is the biggest problem right now in Valorant, or is there another problem that you're facing in ranked that you think Riot needs to attend to immediately? Now, the next thing that we need to talk about is the state of Valorant. And Valorant has actually been doing very well on Twitch when we see record numbers like this. Valorant has far and away been the most popular shooter on Twitch for content and view time, and that is a really good thing for the future of the game. And I understand that for a lot of players who have been grinding it consistently for the past 2 years, things feel kind of like a lull time. And while we did get a big update, we did get a big patch that has really shaken up the meta, especially hurt chamber and opened up a lot of things. The game definitely feels like it's lacking a lot of substance, especially for us who have been grinding it non-stop since it came out, but especially with the Premier League, a lot of that is going to change, or at least it will change at the start of 2023, and it's all going to center around the franchising, which starts in February of 2023. Franchising is all the top teams participating, and you gotta understand that the shift in Valorant is happening very, very soon. And the shift I'm talking about is Valorant turning from a game that is more casual focused, and of course it's always had a competitive side to it. It's always had people that really want to take the game seriously and watch esports, but Valorant and Riot is now shifting to all in on esports. Esports is going to be the priority going forward. And a lot of the balance decisions they're making, and a lot of the metas that we're going to see, and a lot of the additions that we're going to have, like the Premier League, all act as a way to funnel into pro Valorant. Because you got to understand that in order to sell the dream, and the dream is to participate in Premier League, do incredibly well, qualify for Ascension, do well in Ascension, qualify for even more events, and then eventually win your way into franchising, and then you're rich and famous and you're at the freaking top of the esports food chain. That is the dream, and that's what Riot is shifting towards. They've already done this successfully in League of Legends, especially in a lot of regions like Korea, right? They've done that 100% in Korea. But when we look at the shooter genre, we see how Counter-Strike has grown so big in freaking Europe, and we see the potential of a game like Valorant in North America, Europe, and the many regions that Riot has cemented themselves in. I mean, they've in fact cemented themselves in more regions than we've seen any other game do, go to the effort to create servers in. We see what Riot is really trying to do. They're trying to paint the picture of the esport. They're trying to foster interest. They have successfully created a system where people already like the competitive side of the game, and now they're taking the next step and making that leap towards esports. And I think that that's going to be really, really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the casual and average player base adjust to Riot obviously trying to focus on esports. And how big is Valorant esports gonna get? We've already seen it break record numbers. And honestly, I'm so freaking excited about franchising, and I don't even grind Valorant that much anymore. I'm kind of transitioning to the point where I actually enjoy watching it a lot more than I like playing the game, which is just really bizarre, but I feel like many of y'all might feel the same way, where you have a lot of streamers that you might watch, maybe it's Tarek, or whoever else, that you just watch them play, you watch them stream, you watch them grind and create content, but you don't actually grind anywhere near as much as you consume. And I think that especially with esports, they are trying to capture a really large audience. And honestly, the thing that Riot has done so well here is they have funneled everything and connected everything together. The problem that oftentimes has happened with franchising in other games is that the tier 2 scene and below just simply died. And the gap between becoming a tier 2 player and a pro player was so big that players didn't even really try to grind and become a pro player, or it happened very infrequently. But because of the natural progression here and the ability to not only test yourself, but grind and see results from the end game to the tournaments, to prizes, to tier 2, to potential money in tier 2, because a lot of these orgs are sticking around in tier 2 and actually paying people salary because there's incentive to get and grind in tier 2, and it's all connected, which really kind of brings everything full circle, unites the casual audience and the people that just play ranked with the pro audience. Starting in February, it's gonna all come together. We're getting map pools back in, we're getting big updates, we're getting split back, we're getting the freaking Premier League, and we're getting esports back, and it's all gonna come together full circle. And of course, on this channel, we're gonna do a lot more esports related content, breakdowns, overview, news updates. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you stick around and check out the GameLeap website if you wanna become as cracked as possible before the Premier League goes live, so that you give yourself the best shot to start popping off and climbing. But thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.